the blocks work really well, right? Yeah.
And they're a lot easier to do than the experience I've had in SketchUp. It's a little harder to do blocks in SketchUp.
SketchUp just doesn't have any integrity, right? So it's really easy to use, but it's kind of a throwaway tool, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever you build just kind of goes in the trash, essentially. But the components in SketchUp kind of work the same, right? You create one and then it translates if you change it. Yeah. No, this is a lot easier. And the system, you know, it sounds really funny to say, but there are some things, like you said in SketchUp, in different softwares where they just don't work very well, right? And this system works really well. Blocks, W blocks, they work very well, actually. And when you guys get into Revit, which I guess I just heard the spring schedule is open, just so you know. When you get into Revit, they have a similar system of families, right? So you have a family, which is essentially a 3D block, right? So kind of the same system. Again, it works really well. One thing, I'm just going to use this file. Oh, my little icons are tiny, so I'm just going to get them back here, hopefully. There we go. Third time's a charm. There we go. All right. So to add another layer to blocks, right? And let me open up one other file real quick here. I can remember. Oh, I have to go through this way so I can view it. Let's see. Arch. Okay. Oop. Did any of you guys go to any of the Design Week events? No?
Didn't, unfortunately.
No, I wanted to.
Yeah.
I really wanted to. I just don't have time.
It was pretty fun this year.
It was.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. We had a good time.
I wanted to go to the studio tours.
Oh, yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, my wife's died on, my wife's grandma died on Wednesday, so she took off to Vernal, and so I had to deal with the kids, and then I was trying to get all of my homework done, so I didn't have to deal with it for the weekend, and then
Yeah.
I didn't have time.
Sometimes it doesn't work out. But it was, I have to say, it was a pretty fun design week. There were a lot of inspirational things, I think. People are doing a lot of good stuff in Salt Lake right now. The studios are all really busy, and I know we've got a lot of good design firms, I think, so there's a lot to pick from when you get out of school, which is good. Oh, where's that file we were working on the other day? This one will work. Okay. All right. I'm going to cheat a little bit. Ha ha ha.
How did you do that?
Very, very sneaky, right? I guess at this point you guys can probably know the secrets of AutoCAD. I did what's called a copy clip. And we have copy in AutoCAD, right, which just takes an object and copies it around the model space, right? But we also have a copy clip, and if you select an object and you type Control-C, down here at the bottom it says copy clip. And then if you go to this other drawing and you Control-V, you click and you can paste it. Yes. So really useful. Don't get in the habit, though, of kind of not using AutoCAD the way you should, like using a template and using blocks and different things, because you can copy stuff from different files, right? That's just my advice on that. Anyway. So do it, use it, it's easy, it works really well, right? But don't get in the habit of not using the proper methods because you think, oh, I can just copy back and forth between files, right? That doesn't, well, it works usually, but you can drag other things along with that, right, if you're not careful. So, but yes, so I'm going to, I'll grab this one. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's talk about attributes, right? I'll start off kind of just explaining how we're going to, work in the end of a set of construction drawings, right? In the beginning of a set of construction drawings, you have things like floor plans and elevations and different informational sheets that show drawings, right? They have notes on them, right? Notes meaning descriptive text, but they're somewhat generic in that they don't give you a ton of information, right? Other than maybe the layout of the architecture. When we get to the end of a drawing set, and I'm going to pull up an image here. a Google image, you have a lot of information at the back end of a set, right? You have building sections, you have details, you have wall types, you have door and window schedules, okay? And this is where kind of all the specific information about objects in your drawings, it's where it's located, right? This is what a door schedule looks like. We can get it going here. And this looks like it's an actual AutoCAD door schedule. Well, anyway. So this is what a door schedule looks like, and we'll just try and zoom in the best we can here. And what you're going to see on a door schedule in any set of drawings is you're going to see the door number, the door room, the name of the room that it's associated with. You're going to see the size of the door, the type of door, you know, maybe is it different types, like we have material here, right? But maybe it's like swinging doors or sliding doors, or, you know, that type of door. The material, the finish, the hardware, you know, what kind of doorknob and that type of thing. Is it fire rated? Is it painted, etc.? So this door schedule really by number lays out and tells you descriptively what that door is exactly, right? And we have a door schedule because on a set of drawings, right, like for example this floor plan, okay, it's very hard for you to include all of that information here, right? So, you know, you couldn't on this door write a big long list of what this door is, right? Especially, you know, this is a fairly simple plan, but on a really a complicated plan, you know, you couldn't say 6 foot by 8 foot door and it's painted and it's fire rated and right? You'd have a bunch of information below here, and it would get really confusing, right? And so we have to somehow indicate information about doors and then send people to a different location to find that information. And that's what annotation tags, that's what they do. So for example, like this window, right, it has a little annotation marker next to it, a tag, and it has the letter B in it, okay? So somewhere in the drawing set, usually at the back of the drawing set, you will go to a window schedule. Or window elevations, and it's somewhat similar to a door schedule, right? But you'll say, oh, this is window B, and you go and you find window B on the door schedule, and you read it, and it says, oh, it's this kind of window, it's this kind of material, right? It has a sill height of this, and okay? So it makes it easy, right? And it makes your drawings clean, and then it makes it easy to go to one place and find out information about those symbols, okay? Now, what's hard about this system, having, you know, like a door in one place and a schedule in another, is that you have to somehow coordinate that information, right? So somebody, at least in AutoCAD, has to say, this is door number 1, right? And then while they're looking at the floor plan, they have to go back to the door schedule and type in, door number 1 is this big, it's, you know, it's this wide, it's this tall, it has this finish. Oh yeah, in this location it's fire rated. Oh, you know, it swings this way. Oh, it has this special hardware because it's an egress door or whatever, right? So the hard part about this system is that you have to coordinate that information, right? And if it changes, you have to coordinate those changes, and you have to make sure that the door schedule is updated to reflect the changes in the floor plan, right? Here is AutoCAD's inherent downfall, is the coordination, right? Which is Revit's strength, okay? Revit is really good about coordinating things, and essentially if you change a door, it automatically updates that door in the door schedule, right? So there's a relationship there. In AutoCAD we don't have that, so we have to, you know, we have to be careful about that, thoughtful about that. But there are a few things that we can do to kind of mitigate that, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about attributes. Okay, and what an attribute is it's built-in information into blocks that you can then extract into a schedule, right? So I can, with what we're doing today, I can build in things like, you know, the door mark and the finish on the door and the width and the height of the door. I can build that information into this block so that when I generate my door schedule, I can extract that attribute information from this block and its schedules in my door schedule, right? So I do have some type of coordination there, a little bit, not, you know, fully automated, but a little bit, okay? we're going to learn how to create attributes, create block attributes. Those of you that are doing the AAS, who's doing the AAS as opposed to the AS?
I am.
You're doing the AAS? So Jeff Plant, hopefully he'll be back this spring. He teaches a CAD customization class, and that's where you learn how to take the attribute information that you input and extract it out into different schedules and things. Yeah, but we won't learn that in this class. So we learn, with attributes, we learn how to build information into these blocks. And with that, we also get a little marker on our door, like our door or our window, right? So we get a tag built in. So it serves those couple of purposes. Block attributes are not that difficult to generate. They're really not hard at all, actually. The tricky part with attributes is if you have to make a change. We have a attribute editor that generally functions okay, right? But in my experience, attributes are one of those things where if you make a change at times, it's just best to recreate the attribute because it has a hard time updating at times, right? So let's talk about attributes, okay? The first thing that we need to do for an attribute, attributes are defined. We'll talk about that. But they are also kind of indicated with a tag, okay? So on doors, we have door tags. Let me pull up, I'm just gonna go this direction, door tag. Oh, well, architecture, spelled wrong. Okay, so a door tag can be round. That's a little bit too big for me, right? What is a little bit more common, this is Revit. It can be sort of oblong. And
Domo, why don't I have this?
it can be sort of oblong in shape. This is a good example of a pretty typical door tag, like that one right there. Just see how it's kind of oblongish shaped, right? They can be round, they can be oblong, they can be square, right? I think the most typical one is this oblong one, right? That's what you'll see most often. But it's really kind of an office standard type thing, right? So wherever you work, they're really going to define how these things look, okay? But this right here is...
A lot of the blueprints I've worked on, they just give you a door number.
Yeah.
Like it usually corresponds with the room number.
And
then you just go to
the schedule.
Yep. And find the door type.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. But usually it's probably kind of in a little enclosure like that, right? The actual tag looks like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say next. So doors, right? When you have a little floor plan like this, right? And we have maybe a room here, and we have another room over here, and we have a door like that. Maybe we have a closet that somewhat looks like that. We have another door here, right? And this is room 101, and this is room 102, and this is room 103. And maybe we have a door that opens to the outside, right? Doors are numbered according to the room that they are somewhat attached to, right? And when I say they're attached to, it means the room that the door swings into, okay? And, use your best judgment. Sometimes it's a little iffy, like, you look at this and you're thinking, well, the door doesn't swing in, right? It swings out, or you have hallway doors or something that is close to a room but not quite in it. Use your best judgment. They're not going to really come after you if you make it totally, if you change it a little. But realistically, it's a door is going to be connected to the room that it swings into. So for example, this will be door number 102, right? And this door will be door number 101. Now, if we have two doors in a room, right, this one becomes 101A, okay? So if we had one coming in over here and one coming in over here, we would have 102A and we have 102B, just like that, okay? Doors are uniquely numbered, and windows are generally lettered. So if we have a window that kind of looks like this, right, we're going to have a letter. Now, let me see if we can, there's usually a door tag. Sometimes they're squarish, but this is probably the most typical, like 101A, okay? Windows are lettered, doors are uniquely numbered, and if, let's talk about the numbering system for just a second. If you have 1,000 windows in a building and they're all identical, they're all going to have the same mark, right? So 1,000 windows, they're all identical. Identical meaning they're the same size, right? Width and height, and they are the same height off the floor. They're all going to be the same letter, okay? If you have, 500 doors that are one size, or sorry, windows, 500 windows that are one size and 500 windows that are another, you're going to have A and B, right? Even though you have a huge quantity of them, they're still similar, they're still identical, so they have the same letter, okay? Doors are all uniquely numbered. They all have different marks. And I'm thinking the reason behind that is because there's so many different options with doors, right? So doors, they have a lot of different types of hardware. Some of them can be fire rated. They swing different directions. They have different operations. I think the main reason why they're numbered is because of the life safety issues, right? One door can look exactly like another door, have the same width, height, and hardware, but it needs to be fire rated, right? And that needs to be indicated on your door schedule. So you can't call them identical even though they're exactly the same except for the fire rating, right? So there are a lot of unique egress situations that can happen with doors, which is why I think they're unique. And with windows, we have fewer of those restrictions, right? So that's why I'm assuming we have them all lettered and they're similar. Okay, so first thing, right, we have to know how the doors and windows are marked, right, whether it's a letter or a number. And then we need to know how to actually perform the attribute definition, okay? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the actual tag, right? So this tag is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a pentagon, and it has a letter B in it, okay? Great. Over here, I'm going to create a circle. We go to home, circle, center radius, okay? I'm going to just create a circle, and this, let me copy this kind of out to the side actually. I'm going to kind of copy it up and over here. Make sure it's exploded. I'm going to put these on layer 0, right? All of the same block definition rules apply to when you're creating attributes. And let me just say this, the process we're going to follow, attributes are part of a block definition. So we have to create the little tag, the marker, and then we have to define the attributes, and then we have to block the object, right? That's what's going to kind of activate the attributes, okay? All right, so I am going to, and let me just say this is all, there's a lot of steps to this. It's not really that difficult, but there's a lot of steps. And all of these are, in my book, it's on page 1-88, right, where we have this, okay? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place a little circle marker here, right? So I click on circle, we're going to do circle radius, okay? Click, my radius will be something like 6 inches, right? So my circle is actually a diameter. Diameter is a foot. MA, enter, match. I'm going to match that property right there, right? I've got my little tag. I'm going to place my tag somewhere in the door that makes sense. L for line, of course we want to, the way we are, right? We like to make things nice and neat and centered. So I'm going to center that kind of on that door swing, okay? All right, so I have my door, okay? And the next thing that I need to do, I've got my blocks drawn, my double door, I have my tag marker drawn here. The next thing I need to do is define my attribute. All right, so I'm going to come up here to insert, and I have under block definition here, I have define attributes. I'm going to click on that. Okay, so this is not very difficult, but you have to kind of watch me go through it one time, and then I think you'll understand what it means after I do the whole entire block. So I'll talk through this. Don't really think that, don't expect to understand it the first time, but the second time we go through it, it'll make sense, okay? Let me talk about the attribute definition dialog box. And again, I found that under insert, and I came over here to define attributes. Okay. We have kind of the visibility of our attribute. Okay, and our attribute is going to be represented by a letter or a number in this circle or tag marker, okay? We can have the attribute be invisible. We don't want to see it there, but we want to define it so that we can extract that information out of that block, right? We have a constant attribute, which means that regardless of what is indicated here, the definition of the attribute is constant. So this could say something like number 1, and the constant attribute associated with number 1 is 3 foot by 8 foot door, right? It's a constant. We have verify. I'm not gonna just explain these just yet. We'll just talk about them in a minute. Other than lock position. Lock position means that once I create this attribute, it stays in its position and it can't be moved. And I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna uncheck that. Insertion point, we want that specified on screen. Okay. So we're gonna choose the mode. I want mine visible, and I'm not gonna check really any of these other boxes right now. I'm gonna keep this checked. And then under my actual attribute here, this is where it may not make sense until we actually create the block. So attributes are going to be things that you need, information you need from a specific block. So for a door, we probably want the door mark, we want the door width, we want the door height, maybe the door finish, right? The panel information, is it fire rated? And each of those things would be a different defined attribute, right? So we're going to define an attribute for the door number. We're going to define a different attribute for the door width, a different attribute for the door height, right? Which means we can have 4, 5, 6, 7 different attributes associated with one door block, okay? Which sounds like a lot of work, right? And it is, but the nice thing about attributes is that once you create them, you can kind of reuse them, meaning, I have a door block here, right? And I'm going to define several attributes, but if I wanted to create another door that was a single door, right? I could explode this block, delete off this side of it, and I could reblock this with the attributes, and I could reuse them essentially. So I don't have to continue to redefine. I can make them and then copy them around, okay? So my tag here is going to be, we'll do door underscore number. And I have to put an underscore here because my tag doesn't allow spaces, and you'll see why in a minute. The prompt, door number, that will allow spaces. And I'm going to enter a default value, just something like number. Okay. So text settings. This text setting is where my attribute is going to lay inside of this, or live inside of this circle. Okay. So I want it to be middle center. And my text style, we'll just leave it Arial, or if you had predefined another text style, you could use that. Okay, so Arial, and then I'm not gonna, for now, we're gonna leave annotative unchecked. But my text height, I'm gonna make it proportional to the size of this circle I created. That circle was a foot, so maybe I make my text height 8 inches. Okay, so I've kind of defined, this is the definition of my attribute. I'm gonna hit OK, and it's gonna say, hey, where would you like that attribute to live? Well, the middle center here, click. Okay, and that's how I just defined my first attribute, although I did it on the wrong layer. Okay, there we go. All right, I think I made that too big. I'm regretting my text height. I'm gonna delete this, sorry guys. Can't handle it. I'm gonna go to annotate, sorry, insert. I'm gonna do the same thing again for the same one because it was just too big. Here's one of those things where I could have altered it, but it doesn't always work, right? It's still a tiny bit finicky, so I'm just gonna do it again. So door number, prompt, door number, middle center, and Arial, and we'll do 6 inches. Okay. Oh, much better. There we go. Feels good. All right, let's do our second attribute. So I'll do 2 or 3 of them, and then we will block this, and you'll see what happens. So I click on Define Attribute again. I'm going to choose, this time I'm going to choose Invisible, right? We have several different types of attributes, and really the only one that we want showing here is our door number, okay? The rest of the information will be invisible on our drawings, but it will be visible when it's extracted out into like our door schedule, right? So I want the door number to show, so I can say, oh, this is door number 101, right? But I only want 101 to show, but inherently I want there to be embedded information in here for, you know, like the height and the width and the panels, the panel material, etc. But I don't want that to show on the screen. I want it to be invisible, but attached to this block, so when I extract it, it shows in the door schedule. So this one I'm going to have invisible. Okay, so I check invisible, and let's say we're going to do the door underscore width, right? And the prompt will be door width, and the default will be, we'll do width. Okay, now here's a really good thing about a second attribute that's defined. I don't have to readjust my justification settings here. There's a little checkbox here that says align below previous attribute. So that will assume all the properties of this, pop in this attribute right under this one. I'm going to hit OK. Door width. Okay.
Oh, what did you put on the default for that one? I'm sorry.
The default, I think I put width. The width, yep. Define attributes. We'll do door height. So door underscore height. The prompt will be door height. You're like, why are there two of them? Why are they exactly the same, right? You'll see it. Well, it doesn't really make any sense, honestly. But essentially the tag, this is the visual representation you see on the screen here, and it will go away once we define the block, but if you explode it, it will give you a visual indication of what's happening here, okay? The prompt is when we enter the information, which you'll see in a minute. So door height, I'll just do a dash, or you could leave it blank if you wanted. Align below previous attribute. Okay. All right, so I have three attributes defined here, the door number, the door width, and the door height, okay? I could do more if I wanted, but we'll just stop for now, and we'll make this into a block, okay? So I'm gonna come over here to create block, W block. It's a party in there. Objects, right? This is a regular old W block definition. Pick point, click. I'm going to choose my pick point. The pick point is going to help me place the block when I'm done. I'm going to leave this as convert to block, okay? And then I'm going to go to my block library. I'm going to do my desktop. I'm going to go to AutoCAD project, block library, doors. This will be door dash 36 and, or wait, it's a double, right? DOUBL double dash at. And I do at just to indicate there's an attribute associated with it. So it's a 36-inch double door and it has an attribute associated with it. I hit save, okay. Oh, I forgot to select my objects. Thank you, right? I'm going to select my objects. And there's a little trick to selecting my objects. I'm not going to grab my attributes immediately. I'm going to select all of the other lines, right? So I've selected all the other lines using a blue selection window. And then I'm going to pick my attributes in descending order. So click once, click twice, click a third time. Okay, I'm going to hit enter. Okay. And right now, with this dialog box that pops up, when I perform that block operation and I'm totally finished, I know that I've successfully created my block when I get this dialog box popping up, right? So this is saying, oh great, you have created a block. It has attribute definitions in it, right? What are those definitions? Okay, so this now is, when I entered prompt, see it says door number, it's prompting me for that information. And when I put in that default, that obviously shows up right there, right? So I could say door number, this is door number 101. And the door width, 3 foot 0 inches. And the door height, we'll do 7 foot 0 inches. Okay, and again, you could have a bunch of them, right? I can hit OK, and there is my door number. Still, the text is a little bit big, right? All right, so this is a block now, right? I click on it, it's a block. I can go to my home tab and I can use my drop down and I can change it to whatever, you know, layer I want it to be on. All right. I'm going to copy this over here for a second. I think I made my text a little too big, obviously. But I can explode this, X, enter, select, enter, right? And if I explode it, it breaks it down into its component parts, which consist of those attributes, right? So there they are again. If I wanted to use those same attributes again as defined, I could grab these, copy them, right? There's a single door. I've got all the geometry, all the defined attributes, and I could just W block these now. So I come up here to annotate, or sorry, insert, right block, W block, objects, pick a base point, zoom in, click, select objects, click. So I'm going to pick, there we go, click once, click twice, click a third time. Now if you don't select these in order, it's not really a huge deal, other than when they come up in the that menu, right, to enter your information, they don't come in order. That's really the big problem, right? So what's nice about having these kind of, you click once, twice, 3 times, they come in the order you want them to. I've selected them, I hit enter. I'm going to save these into my block library here, right? And this will be a door dash 36 inch and dash, I always do ATT just to indicate there's an attribute, right? Because sometimes I want blocks with attributes and sometimes I don't. So I like to be able to distinguish. I hit save, okay, and there it is, right? So I could type door 10, the width, you know, blah, 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 the height, da, 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 enter, and there we go. Okay. So pretty easy to make, create. I'll do one more full definition using this window, okay? But before I do that, I just want to show you a couple of things, right? These blocks, with attributes, you use them just like any other block, right? That's what's really useful about them. Blocks are great, they work really well. Attributed blocks are even better because they have information contained within them you can use elsewhere. And they have a tag associated with them, right? And what's really nice about this is that I can CO, copy. I can grab this, bring it over here. Let's put a door here, click. RO, enter. I'm gonna rotate this. We'll talk about that's the wrong direction right now, but M for move. Move it up just a tiny bit, right? L for line. Click, click, trim, TR, enter, enter. There we go, right? Now this little piece of text, right, the number, the mark, is the wrong direction, so I can rotate it, click, click. What pops up is the attribute editor, and I'm gonna leave number 1. If I double click on this, the attribute editor will allow me to change the information, right? So I could type in something like 11, and it changes the mark, which is great. I can click on door width, door height, and I can change the information after the fact, right? This attribute editor, you know, this input is different from actually changing how the attribute is defined, right? This is just input. This allows me to change the input if something changes, but it doesn't actually really change the attribute itself, right?
Will it change the other blocks in the drawing?
No.
Just that block?
This is an instance-based object right here. Yep. So this just changes the one I've clicked on. Yep. I can go here to text options, the little tab right behind there, and you'll notice that I have a rotation of 270, so it's sideways. If I just come in here and type 0 on rotation, I hit OK. Oop. It should. Oh, maybe it just didn't take effect. 0. There we go. It goes right. Okay. So whatever, I'm going to double click again, whatever this rotation is, if you just changed it to 0, it would work, right? And I could change the height if I thought that was too large to 4 inches, hit OK and it changes it. Although it doesn't change the definition, it doesn't change every instance of that, right? So if you wanted to change the height of the text, you would want to go back and just do it universally through the editor. Okay, so let's create a block from scratch, okay, that has an attribute. And let's, I want to insert a block and use it just like we would a normal block, right? If I go to the insert menu, and I have my gallery here, right? But I'm gonna click on more options, browse, and I'm gonna go to my desktop, my AutoCAD project, block library, doors. Here are all of my blocks with attributes, okay? If I wanted to use one of these in a project, any project, I have them available. I click on double door, I hit open, okay, I click, and when I click, that's when it says, hey, you have attributes, will you define what these mean, right? So I could type door number 15, and the width would be 6 foot, and the height would be, let's do it taller, 8 foot, 0 inches. I'm gonna hit okay, and there it is, okay? So we can use our block library. We save these out, obviously, right? We can reuse them over and over again to bring them in and manipulate them. I can explode these, and I can use this existing, infrastructure, right, to then redefine other blocks, which you'll do a lot, right? We have a lot of different sizes of doors. We have a lot of different types of doors, right? We have double doors, single doors, sliding doors, whatever, right? Pocket doors. So you will have the opportunity to, or the need, I guess is maybe a better word, the need to reuse these for other blocks, okay? Let's delete this one out here. M for move.
So how do you put that into a door schedule then? Or is that something you said we weren't going to learn that?
Yeah, that'll be later. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Can we interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Excuse us. This beast right here.
It's going back. Yay.
Yeah, Jerry asked for it. Sorry for the interruption. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. So that'll be something later on you'll learn, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But you can extract the information out into a schedule.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So we know how to define attributes. Let me just run through the process one time again, an entire time. So I'll do a window here, and I'm just going to start over to the side. I'm going to draw my geometry like I normally would, right? So I go to line, I make sure I'm on layer 0, click, move in the direction I want to go. Let's do maybe a 6 foot wide window. And it's going to be, 6 inches in depth here. Okay. Offset 2 inches for my frame. Click, 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 click. L for line. There is my window framework. There we go. Now I need to draw my little tag, which we'll do it exactly like this one. So we'll do a polygon there. I'm going to do polygon. How many sides? We'll do 5, enter. I'm going to specify the center right here, and then when I'm done I'll move it. But I want the radius to be 6 inches, so it's a foot. And then I'm going to M for move, and I'm going to move it out. Right, so it goes right there.
Is there a specific distance that you use from the bottom of the tack of the window?
Not necessarily. You just want it to be consistent. So if you do multiple windows, just make it the same, right? I could grab this and I could do M for move. This, shift right click from here up, 2 inches and make it consistent. Yep. Okay. So I've got my tag, and now it's time to define my attributes. I'll just do a couple this time, right? If I had wanted to, and I know thinking ahead, I want to center that text on there, so I'm going to draw a line across there to center it. If I wanted to, I could grab all of these, M for move, or copy, and I could use these exact same attributes, right? Although they're for a door, of course. But if I wanted to, I could reuse them. So that's one nice thing about attributes. All right, so I come up here to insert, and I'm going to choose define attributes. Okay, the first one we want visible, so I'm going to uncheck that. This lock, right? If I had chosen to lock that position of the attribute, when I rotated my window or door, it wouldn't allow me to rotate it, right? So that would always remain in the same position. So that's why I unchecked lock, right? There are going to be circumstances where maybe you want the lock to work, but this isn't. I think it's actually very rare. All right, so our tag is going to be something like window tag. The prompt will be tag. And the default will be something like A, right? The justification, we always have to choose the text settings for the first attribute we create. Generally, it's going to be middle center. Arial will do 4 inches. Okay. Click. Oh, what did I do?
And you did to the left.
Did I? Okay, let's do it again. We can't have that, right? Window, tag, window, and then we'll do A. We want middle, center, there we go. Arial will do 4 inches. Okay. Click, and it centers. And then I can just get rid of that little line that helped me place it, right? And I'm going to do another couple blocks, define attributes, window, frame material, and then we'll do something like metal. And I don't need to justify the settings on the second attribute because I can align it below the first. Okay. And we'll do one more, define an attribute. This one will be, let's see, window height, and something like 6 foot, you know, whatever it's going to end up being. Align below. These ones are invisible. Okay, there we go. We have 3 of them. Okay, time to block these and to kind of make them all function. I'm going to go to W block. Okay, and pick point. We're going to pick a point on the block that will help us place it. So maybe this corner, click, select objects. So I try not to get the attributes first. I try and grab all the geometry first. And then I click once, click twice, click a third time, enter, convert to block. And I'm going to save this out, not in my doors, but in my windows. Window dash metal, and this will be 72 inches, and it will have an attribute. I hit save. Okay, and I know it's worked because I get this prompt, right? And now I can enter the window information. So A, window A, it's metal, and it's, you know, maybe it's taller than that, 5 or 8 foot 0 inches. Okay. Oh, did I make that first attribute invisible?
I think so.
Did I? Okay. Well, don't do that, right? There's a good illustration of what not to do. So obviously I made that first attribute invisible, so we can't see it. So you don't want to do that, right? If I wanted to change that, I do have a manage attributes here where I can click on manage attributes. This is where, again, it gets a little iffy when we're managing and redefining attributes that have already been defined. So the door number here, or let's see, what did I do? Manage attributes, there we go. Oh, for this block, sorry. Window, let's look, we've got my first one, and settings. I might have to redo it. Select block, see, move up to edit. Ah, there we go. There it is. Okay. That actually worked. Okay. So block redefinition is not that bad sometimes. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Or Thursday. But in general, does it make sense kind of how you're going to go about creating these, right? Right now, for your purposes, right, when you are doing drawings and you're not, right now you don't know a whole lot, right? Just using attributes for marking tags is really helpful, right? So you can label these A, B, C, D, you can do your own little drawings, right? And, you know, it makes sense and this works. But when you get a little bit further into it, you will learn how to extract the information, make it usable, okay? All right, let's see. Okay, that's good for today. we already talked about. Sorry, one thing. I just want to remind you, right? So these blocks that we've created, these W blocks, right? I just want to remind you that if I go to my desktop, wherever your block library is, right? If I go to my desktop, which is where mine is located, I go to AutoCAD projects, I go to block library, all of my blocks are living here, right? So these are no different when I created them, right? They're all of my blocks that I've created. There's the one with the attribute, right? I'm going to open this up and let's just look at the file. This is what a block with attributes looks like, right? So when I create them on layer 0. I have this attribute that is visible. I have these two others that are invisible, but this text just kind of lives there and it sort of overlaps, you know, the block, and it doesn't look quite right, but that's how they look, right? If I come back here to the file that I was actually working in, right? If I were to take this block and explode it, X, enter, I get that exact same thing, right? So that is what blocks with attributes look like, essentially. So for your assignment, let me open up Canvas here. I don't think I've published it yet. Hold on. Oh boy, 7 emails. Okay. 1310. All right. Assignments. All right. So your assignment is going to be obviously to create some blocks with attributes, right? So we've got I'll open up these. You'll have these assignments as well. So the W blocks, door, windows, and furniture. We'll talk about title blocks and block attribute definitions on Thursday. And hold on a second. I thought doors, windows, furniture. This is the one that has the. Okay. Sorry, I look at these at the beginning of the week and then I forget. No, these ones have attributes in them. Yeah. Right. So mine is page 2-41, right? It has the doors and the windows on it. But essentially what you're going to be doing is, there's a lot of instructions, right? But you're going to be, number one, drawing, right, these doors. You're going to be adding the marker, and then you're going to be defining attributes for each of these, okay? If it were me doing this, a little advice, this door is exactly like this door, just mirrored. Yep, exactly. This door is exactly like this door, mirrored together, right? So if it were me, right, I would probably draw this door, draw the circle, you know, I would probably mirror it over, do the attribute definitions, and then copy them over. So you don't have to draw all of these separate. You can draw one, use it for another, right? And then you can take this one, copy it down, mirror it about that middle point, and get that one, do the same thing. These are going to be a little bit less easy to copy, although you could create this 3-foot one, right? And then copy it over and stretch it out 2 feet and draw this middle, right? So you can use a little bit of the geometry to create this, but not all of it, okay? So we're going to have that one. I thought I had posted, now I'm forgetting last week. It's so long ago.
We haven't had any of the block assignments yet.
Okay, so let me open these up. So you'll have a couple of block assignments, and then we'll save this one for next time. So I'll open up the couple of block assignments. I'm going to delete this one because we don't need that one. So I'll open those right now. Well, I'll let you guys get going, but I'm going to delink so you'll have those block assignments. You'll create all those block assignments. They'll be due in a week, but that will be your assignment. And then on Thursday, really Thursday, we're going to kind of start getting ready for the final, honestly. So when we start creating our title block will have block attributes in it, and we'll start doing some drawing exercises to kind of prepare you to construct your final, which is great. So, all right, let me stop recording and I will post those assignments.